I think we are at time to begin the session. David, all good? Yeah.
We are
Hi,
recording.
everyone. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, from wherever you're joining. We are really happy to have you on the session. I can see a few of you have even joined us on our previous session where we spoke about the Exchange Server Roadmap. Really appreciate you joining us on this session as well. I have with me on this session my colleague Mukesh Kumar, and I'm Srividya Varanasi. We are both PMs on the Exchange Server and hybrid space, and we would be co-hosting this session. Actually, this is a roundtable discussion, so rather than hosting, I think we would be participating because this is really an interactive session where we would like to hear a lot of your feedback. Um, so essentially, that is what we will be doing in the session. The objective of the session, because some of you might not be familiar with the format, is to seek feedback on what requirements you have from Exchange Server and how can we make Exchange Server better so it meets all your needs. What are the investments that we should put in Exchange Server? And basically, we're going to use all of this information and to create the Exchange Server roadmap. So you would be driving whatever conversations we're going to essentially have during this meeting. You're going to drive the strategy or roadmap for Exchange Server vNext. So that's essentially the agenda. For some of you who have not joined our previous session on Exchange Server feature review, I just want to do a very quick recap on what are the near future investments that we are making in Exchange Server. So there are three areas where we are making investments. In the security area, where we want to enhance Exchange Server security. And in this space, the features that we're working on are enabling extended protection, modern auth for various Outlook clients, and also enabling HMA for Outlook on web. And on in the stay current space, essentially this is where we are delivering features that will keep your Exchange servers updated to the latest cumulative updates and security updates. We have two features where we are creating a dashboard and action center for software updates that you have to do for Exchange server. And then to make updates more easy, we're going to retain all the customizations that as admins you would be doing on your Exchange servers even after you update to the next CU. So we're going to retain all of those. And the third one is basically hybrid or move to cloud. So this is essentially for customers who have hybrid deployments or in the process of moving to the cloud. We are going to deliver hybrid wizard a la carte or and what ifs. And then we are also working on the last Exchange server solution in for the long term solution. So these were the features that were discussed in our previous session. If you missed attending our session, please, the recording will be available. Please do attend, look at the recording, but of course you can ask us questions on these features as well during the session. So in this session, there are multiple ways. I think you can unmute yourself and ask us questions. You can post your questions on the chat. We'll constantly be monitoring. I'm also joined by some of my other engineering colleagues on this call, so they will be answering your questions as well. And of course, we have also a survey where we've listed out some ideas on what we should be investing in Exchange server. So please log into the survey and upvote our ideas. And if you have any new requirements from Exchange server, please provide your feedback there as well. So with that, I think basically even after the post recap, and if you've already attended our previous session, right, even with the thumbs up or show of hands, you can just let us know if the feature investments that we are doing in the near future, how excited are you about those features is something that we definitely want to know. And we hope that we are making the right investments. But in this session now, I'm going to open the forum and understand what's your wish list for Exchange Server vNext. What do you want to see in the vNext for Exchange Server? And if there are any pain areas that you would want us to address, please let us know. And since this is roundtable discussion, we would like to understand, we would be asking questions to probe the usage, etc., so that we understand your scenario better and we would be able to work on your requests further. So this is the link to the survey. Please fill in the survey. But the forum is now open to you. Please unmute yourself to talk. If there are multiple people, I think you can raise your hand, and we would call out based on the sequence, and then we can discuss on where we should take Exchange Server going forward.
Yeah, Srividya, so I think there are few questions on hybrid, or basically few suggestions on hybrid pain point. I think we can start with that. So, I mean, anyone who would like to start, or any would like to comment on it. I mean, we are looking at the chat, but yeah, feel free to just share your thoughts on hybrid.
Yes. So I raised my hand and I put something in the chat window.
Mhm.
But the real question I have is I know that you guys posted a something recently where you now don't need to have an Exchange server. You can pretty much just have the management, like the management, the PowerShell management tools, but you still have to have an Exchange org and that kind of stuff. And our organization, everything is cloud. Like all of our mailbox servers are in the cloud. We started making all cloud only groups and all that other stuff. I mean, we have some legacy DLs that are synced up, but I was wondering if there, with regards to the hybrid, is there a time when we can just not have an Exchange server at all? Like we can totally go cloud native with everything, and and just not even have an org, like really clean up the Active Directory, get rid of all the stuff, and just be totally Office 365. Maybe have AD sync to sync up users that need mailboxes and stuff like that. But really doing all the sort of stuff in Office 365, so there's no really need for having a hybrid server or legacy Exchange on-prem.
Yeah, so I think few of that thing like removing Exchange server is still possible because you don't need that now with the advent of Exchange management tool, right? So you can do all those tasks that you had to use server for using the management tool, which is a small PowerShell utility. There is also an AD cleanup script that we ship with the management tool, which can be used to remove all the hybrid dependencies like you mentioned, right? Uh, so yeah, I think the things that you're asking are there. Uh, the only thing that is, or the ask that is still not served is the management of recipients directly from cloud. I think that's something that will take time, but removing servers and having a lightweight tool to manage the recipients which are uh, you know migrated to cloud is something that is feasible through management tools.
I, I think one thing, could I add something?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead,
I would. So actually, it is possible for if you are a customer who has completely switched to online and you really do not need anything on premises anymore as far as sync is concerned. I mean, you can actually today, if you break that AAD connect sync, it will actually switch your source of authority to cloud, and everything will be actually editable from the cloud, and you will have 100% cloud management. And that is actually where the main problem is, right? As long as that AAD sync is required, so you do need attributes to be synced between on-premises and the cloud. That is basically the point where source of authority becomes on-premises. So that is really kind of outside of the Exchange world, and we did um, mention that that is like a long-term goal. It would be great if we could switch that source of authority to the cloud without breaking AAD Connect. However, I just wanted to be clear because it wasn't quite clear to me from the question. If you have switched completely to online and do not need AAD sync anymore, you can actually make that switch today, and you can go fully cloud and not have any management from on premises.
Thank you actually for that clarification. I didn't actually know that. We are using AD Sync in the fact that we're still provisioning users in our Active Directory, and then of course, and then we're syncing up to Azure AD, and then they're getting their mailbox. We're provisioning a license to them, and I didn't, and that was the sort of piece that we were hoping. Like we could still sync up the user stuff, but like the actual exchange like stuff in AD would not be needed. But I see what you're saying is the fact is that even after the provisioning occurs, there has to be some attributes that have to be synced back, and if you removed those, like the org, you would not be able to like sort of be able to access that data or be able to sync that data back. Correct?
Right.
One of the other hybrid requests, and we've seen this even in the earlier session, Mukesh, is basically the distribution groups, hybrid distribution groups. And I think Patrick has this point, and I see a lot of upvotes on this particular feature request, where Patrick is saying that hybrid distribution groups, and I mean, it needs to be the cloud users should be able to edit the distribution groups that have been created on-prem. I think essentially that's the requirement, right, Patrick?
Yeah. I mean, historically, years ago when mailboxes were on-prem, users were able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
With groups on-prem, they were basically going in the GAL and updating membership as long as they were manager or owner of that particular group.
So what's your environment like currently? You have users, you are completely, what's your plan? Are you planning to completely move to the cloud, or you want to
All of
be?
our mailboxes are in Office 365.
Mhm,
Management, and we've still got some on-prem relays. We have some high
mhm,
volume mailing scenarios.
mhm,
So Edge is still going to be in play for quite a while until some of the scalability limits go up by a lot, which I doubt you guys are planning on it anytime soon. So at which point, if we have Edge, we might as well just have the management suite installed too. So that's kind of where we're sitting. Um,
So
users. Yep.
essentially,
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry. So essentially, once the relay limits are basically enhanced in EXO, you would be migrating to, I mean, Exchange on online. Is that correct?
For things that are in the Edge, if possible, we have a
Mhm,
lot of equipment that modern auth would be a stretch. Let's put it that way. Authentication would be a stretch on a lot of it. A lot of HVAC equipment, a lot of multifunction devices,
mhm,
and we got less than 1,000. Let's put it that way. Endpoints that are hitting the edge servers on-prem, either because of volume or because of they just can't support the newer requirements.
mhm.
Yeah, so I think these changes required for you know groups to be self-sufficient in cloud, right? So this is all part of the last exchange server long-term solution that we are thinking of. So today, if you create a group in on-prem, right, the SOA remains on-prem, and much of the functionality to edit that in cloud is not available. So yeah, that's something that is uh, there in the roadmap. Uh, Probably it will take some time to get there, but yes, it's there.
Excuse me. So you're I cut out there for a second. So you're saying on the roadmap there'll be a time to turn um, groups that are or distribution groups that are being synced up on-prem to change to
Yeah,
like cloud only, so that way they could all the editing could happen by the users?
Yes, exactly. So on-prem users as well as groups, right? So I mentioned that in the earlier uh, presentation as well. So users and groups are part of our design where uh, all the exchange related attributes, the SOA will be shifted to Exchange Online. Yeah, so I think as soon as we do that, your problem will sort of remediate itself. But yeah, for now, this is a pain, as you mentioned, but we know that that's something that is needed and it's there in the pipeline. Okay, so I think there were
Yeah, I think one more, we can talk about one more hybrid scenario and then we will move to the next area. But I think one other common feedback that I heard come up a couple of times is auto mapping enabled on cloud mailboxes. So if anyone can elaborate on the scenario that you are looking for, Andreas or
yeah, so I think if you're uh, talking about the cross, so when the mailbox uh, is in on one of the mailbox is on-prem and the other mailbox is in cloud, and there are some uh, things working and some not. I think for that we have a good write-up already, and I will share that where we have like elaborated on what works and what doesn't. And much of these scenarios, as I said, will be remediated as soon as we have that uh, last exchange server long-term solution. So yeah, I think we hear you. And but yeah, if there is any uh, critical issue that you're facing, do let us know. I mean, anybody who wants to elaborate more on their particular scenario not working, feel free to take the stage.
And one particular question that we had for you on the hybrid space is how do you currently manage the administration on mailboxes, both in cloud and on-prem? Do you have a single admin team doing both? And if so, is there a requirement for a single pane of glass for managing both, I mean, everything that's on cloud and on-prem? Is that something that is a requirement?
Can I mention something I have heard several times about auto mapping specifically, just so the team gets clarity. Um, this does come up in support actually relatively often. I believe what this refers to, and if you have typed this into the chat, please let me know if I'm mistaken. It is currently impossible to tell which mailboxes are enabled for auto mapping and which are not. You simply cannot tell. Like you can enable auto mapping for a mailbox, you can disable auto mapping for a mailbox. There is not a commandlet which will tell you which mailboxes are enabled for auto mapping or if the mailbox is enabled for auto mapping. So it is, it's kind of weird. You can enable it, but you cannot know what the state is.
And that may pose as a challenge when you have some mailboxes on-prem in that list and some mailboxes in cloud, because then some scenarios may not. Okay, yeah. So I think for the auto mapping related issue, and I think there are issues mentioned about send as and uh, so probably send on behalf as well. So I think uh, there are few scenarios that work, and there are few additional configuration changes that you need to do. But then there were few scenarios that were already mentioned as a known issue for hybrid, and we have not changed or we have not fixed anything on those known issues which are already listed. So yeah, I think we we see that a lot of you have such complaints, so feel free to share those in the survey. This will help us understand the requirement, or let's say the pain point that all of you are facing, and we'll probably take it up in the future. So yeah, feel free to share this in your wish list in the survey.
Okay, I think let's move on to the upgrade and patch experience improvements. Specific to upgrades and patching, right, onto latest cumulative updates or security updates. How do you find the experience currently in Exchange Server? We also spoke about some improvements in the last session where we're going to have a feature for retaining customizations, a dashboard for viewing your current upgrade or patch status, etc. But are there any other pain areas that you would want us to address?
Yeah, I'm wondering with Exchange if we can get the CUs and SUs included as part of the Windows update cycle. Similarly to how SQL Server is now available. It's fully automatic. Can be set up with SCCM to automatic approval, automatic deployment. So we're not taking the large amount of time to do patching by hand anymore.
Okay, currently, I mean, this is the first time we are actually hearing this feedback. So I think thanks for the feedback. Can you explain what's the sequence of your updates? How do you basically manage the updates? How do you update SQL and then the patching for the cumulative update? Can you just explain that so that we become more aware of what you're doing?
So Windows and SQL Server, along with Defender updates, we're pushing out right now through
Mm-hmm.
SCCM.
Okay.
It's just set up. It's just configured as ADRs.
Mm-hmm.
So patch comes out this month. It's of this
Okay.
nature. It meets all the requirements. It gets pushed out on Saturday night to these sets of servers, Sunday night
Mm-hmm.
to these sets of servers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything's all automated. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
to do any of the patching by hand anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, it used to be a fairly large time sink years ago when
Mm-hmm.
everybody was doing it by hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it'd just be nice if Exchange was included in there as well.
Okay, so you're basically looking at an automated experience. I mean, it could be SCCM or it could be any other way, but you basically essentially are looking for an automated update process, right?
Correct.
So in SCCM, you schedule the time when you want to update, and that's when the updates run.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So we are thinking on those lines on automating the entire update process, and we are really happy that we got this feedback. So this is something that is work in progress, and we would be sharing some updates, or we would be reaching out to you for more inputs as well. But we are looking at automating the update process as well so that you don't have to do it manually. One question I have is that specific to security updates, right? Do you currently use, I mean, security update releases through Windows Update? You
Uh,
deploy that or do you still do it manually?
no, that's we all of that's managed through SCCM.
Oh,
Like
okay. Even the security updates for Exchange Server.
that that would be ideal. Yes.
Okay. But how are you managing the security updates patching for Exchange Server now?
Now it's right now it's manual.
Okay, and I mean, the security updates are also available through the Microsoft Updates channel, right? So that's a little more automated than your manual installation. Have you tried doing that through the MU?
I haven't as of yet. And a lot of it has to do with staff timing. So anywhere where we can automate, the better.
Okay. Okay, I see some hands up. Maybe Kevin.
Hey, thanks. So we're working on automation ourselves. We've gotten DAG automation in place very recently for Windows updating, but for cumulative updates, H updates, security updates, that's our next step. If I understood correctly, it sounds like you're working on rolling that out. One of our challenges is customization of files. So like the web config file. Every time, this has been the case for years now, every single time you run a Exchange update, that web config file is typically overwritten, and any customizations you've done to that, like the number of OUs that you can have in an environment, and the EAC still bring them up, is always overwritten. Don't know if there's any consideration of some of the files that seem to be overwritten, really that don't need to be overwritten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. So that's one of the features that we are working on, where we're going to keep all the customization that you do on the config files even after the update.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, as Shida was also mentioning, so I would be very interested to know, like, uh, if you're able, I mean, if in future we provide you an automated way of upgrading your or let's say updating your cumulative updates and security updates, owing to the the nature of I mean, probably some of you would have DAG, some of you would have large number of servers. So how you know what is the appetite for that feature that removes a lot of manual tasks required for updates, but yeah, I mean, you would need to start ingesting if we provide any automation for it.
And currently, if you're running in a day, I mean, you can run mixed patch levels right now. So it's really more of a sequencing thing. So it could be done. I mean, we're doing it right now. We're doing that for Windows patching, but it's definitely something that would have to be considered.
Yeah, so if we actually help you or provide you with that tool that you can use for sequencing, is what I'm hearing is that is something that would be useful to you, right?
Correct. And even if we can't do it on the dig directly, if the installation's broken out, anything client facing or anything potentially that would be exposed to the internet.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, so basically, ability to control which servers gets the update first and which servers gets the updates at the last, so that you can control the uh, any potential disruption that may be caused.
I think there was another question we can take on personal retention tags. Harold, do you want to explain the scenario that you're looking for?
Sure, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
So we have on-premise users that we migrate to Exchange Online. Those on-premise users had retention tag that it's not available in Exchange Online, or if we change a license, like from an F3 to an E5 license, and the mailbox plan changes the retention policy to another something else that either doesn't have a tag or starts taking action, we see stuff getting removed from the mailbox. Very frustrating for us and for the end users. It'd be really nice if we could, prior to moving someone, without going through a crawl using EWS, have a filter that we can tell people, hey, run this filter in Outlook or sort it this way in Outlook or OWA, either one, to show all the messages that have a particular retention policy. That way they can take action on them, change the tag, remove them out to another folder that won't have the same retention or something along those lines. This is a very large pain point for us.
Okay.
People get their stuff deleted, and it's not a pleasant call.
True. Understood your feedback, Harold. So we will definitely look at this.
So no suggestions. Am I missing anything, or is that just not something that's available right now to be able to, short of doing an EWS crawl, which is super painful, figured out what retention tags or what personal tags are applied to content in a mailbox?
Nino, are there any suggestions or workarounds we would suggest, Harold, or do we only look at investigating it in the future?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah,
sorry.
I did mention, I think Harold, Ken, you brought this up earlier, and that was the only workaround with EWS for the kind of thing he was trying to accomplish there.
And even if it is EWS, it'd be nice if Microsoft would come up with a EWS script for a particular user that, you know, before I move someone, I could run it for that person, because there's really nothing out there that I've seen that's per user that's easy to run, even from, you know, scripting. There is the retention policy stuff out in the GitHub repository, but it does not tell you whether or not a tag is applied and to what. It only tells you the stuff about the mailbox.
Correct. Yeah, that script, I'm familiar with that script, and yeah, it'll only tell you what's applied to the user, even the custom a la carte that they might have gone and pulled in OA if they were, you know, educated along those lines. But yeah, unfortunately, to crawl that, it's a little difficult.
Super painful.
Yep.
Especially, we got a 150,000 user seat, so that, yeah.
Sure, Harold, we will investigate and we'll see if there's any workaround that's available immediately. Otherwise, we will look at what to do to fix this issue.
Thank you.
We have Scott who has raised his hand.
Oh, hi. Yeah, this is can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. In regards to the CU update, so we run into challenges. Our process typically was, you know, if a new CU came out, we would look at the release notes. Is there a schema update? If so, we would try to run that manually several days prior, and it needs, you know, you need to run setup, prepare schema in the same site as the schema master. I noticed with the last CU and several other CUs that it says there's no schema update. So if there's no schema update, we would like to upgrade. We upgrade our servers like in a span of several days, you know, like passive servers first. If we are upgrade the passive server, which is not the same site as the schema master, it would fail. And it would be because, well, there's not schema updates, but there's some other domain updates. So it would still need to be run from the same site. So the release notes are not accurate. So then we would run, you know, the wizard, which was supposed to give you some steps on how to upgrade. Is there any easy way to know the steps for a current CU and how to update? You know, should it be done, you know, should it be prepped, like we run a prep AD in the same site first, then upgrade? It seems to just be confusing for us, and we're constantly updating our process. I know there was something called the Exchange Update Wizard. That was kind of general. Somebody yesterday mentioned, oh, run the health checker first. Then there was something I just learned about called the Setup Assist script. I'm not too familiar with that. Is there a process that you guys recommend?
Yeah, I think Rob or Nino would be able to answer this question better. Would you be able to take it up, Rob, Nino? Typically, when we release a CU update, we don't, I don't think we are providing any additional recommendation on the
Yeah,
schema,
so
right?
and this actually depends on the existing version of your server, right? So if there is a schema update, it is in relation to the last CU is what we mentioned in our release blog, right? I think what you need is a diff between your existing version and your attempted version where you're installing. So I don't think we have. I think health checker is a good.
We have the update wizard that he was referring to. That'll kind of give you that guidelines. It's not automated, but it'll say if you have this version and this build, the steps and prereqs that you might need to get to the latest build or to get into the interim builds. That's what that specific site will do for you. The health checker would just tell you whether you're behind or not. And setup script is another series of scripts to help you there. I guess what's the exact, because I might have missed part of that question. What was the exact thing you were wanting to solve for, Scott?
Yeah,
Well, I think the problem is that sometimes they may get blindsided by, hey, this CU actually required 80 prep or schema prep. So we actually do have documentation on where we do document when CUs come out, where we talk about, okay, if schema, like there are a couple of versions that we document that say, okay, you can read that and say, okay, this CU will require a schema change or an AD prep, right? Rob, don't we have a document where we have those like Ranger upper builds and stuff?
Yes.
I want to
So
say we
there's-
do. I'm trying
Yeah,
to find it.
we do that's the we have a series of them. I'll go grab it. I have a list of them, but it looks like Bala wants to add something to that too, Nino, and I'll grab that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention there are two scenarios where you will need AD prep. One is the schema update, and second, if there is some sort of change with the RBAC or at some other level, which is more frequent reason apart from schema prep or schema extension. So as a rule of thumb, it won't harm to say run AD prep from the same side as that of your schema master or domain naming master, and then proceed to install your Exchange servers. So that should ensure that your Exchange server is the setup which you are doing in the different AD sites that will not fail.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think that's
Yeah.
what we updated our process to be because it was so confusing. We're like, well, let's just do it every time now from the same site, just in case.
Yeah, I mean, what happens is if there is some sort of command-led parameter or even a minor change, which may not be documented extensively on the release notes, etc. And if you have not done the AD prep, the setup will try to invoke the AD prep implicitly. And if your setup is from the same AD site as sort of your the domain naming or the schema master, there will not be any issue because it will just run correctly. But if it is from a different AD site, then you'll see those error messages. So yeah, it's
I'm sorry, let me ask you one more thing and I won't take too much time. I did speak to an engineer and he said it's also a good idea if I'm running just the prepare AD from a server, it's also a good idea to reboot that server afterwards. I don't know how accurate that is. Does that make sense?
It may not be required just for the AD prep, but as a rule of thumb, or again, as a kind of a best practice, if there are a lot of third-party services running and if there is a lock on open files, etc., it might be beneficial for you to reboot the box before you start the Exchange setup, just to ensure that the third-party services do not have any lock on the files that the Exchange server might be upgrading.
Right. No,
So,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
it's
He
just for that.
recommended rebooting it after the prepare AD.
No, not
I
required for
didn't
that.
think so. Okay. Thank you.
Scott still has his Exchange hat on. He replied on the chat as well.
Yeah, and aka.ms/exobjectber or objver would get you that list that Nina was referring to between the Active Directory versions. There is a lot of content out there that is kind of mismatched, but I'm trying to see if I can find something I can share with you to kind of give you a list of those.
Okay,
So I think
we have Chandra. Yeah.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question with regards to mail flow security, which is related to hybrid scenario. So we have a hybrid wizard already ran. We don't have any mailboxes online. We just ran the hybrid wizard. But I was told by my colleague that in one of the sessions yesterday that you are still able to send telling
Chandra, we are not able to hear you well. Your voice is breaking.
Yeah, we just lost you at the moment when we were about to give the problem. Yeah, still it's very fuzzy. So you can try uh, share this on the chat. I think your audio is still. Yeah.
Yeah, Chandra, by the time, I think in the meanwhile, we'll take this question from Jonathan. I think once your audio is better, we'll come back to you again.
Thank you so much. We were talking earlier about CUs and SUs.
Hmm.
We've been able to successfully automate CUs out to a fairly large exchange environment, but we've been trying to do SUs via SCCM, but our SCCM guys seem to have problems every time it results in something different. Like as the SU begins to deploy, it shuts down WMI and SCCM loses contact. All kinds of little odd problems. Did I understand you earlier to say that they are included among the regular Windows updates in SCCM so they could deploy them somewhere easier than just doing it as a standalone package?
Yes. So if you turn on your uh, Windows update, so Exchange security updates can be installed automatically. That's what you wanted to clarify, Jonathan?
Yes, because I think they've been up until now downloading the SU separately and deploying it by
Oh yeah, you
itself.
you don't need to do that unless your servers do not have like outbound connectivity to internet. You don't need to do that. You can enable Windows Update and it should automatically update.
Through SCCM.
Uh, Through Windows Update, I'm not sure about.
Yeah, SCCM would leverage the same WSS server, so it should be possible through SCCM as well.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate it. I'll see if they can work on that.
Also, one question I had is, so I'm assuming that all of your servers would have outbound connectivity, right? When you are applying the SU updates, is that correct? Or there are servers that are disconnected?
No, they all have internet access.
Internet access, yeah, okay.
Ours no
And
longer have internet access.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, few have, few don't have, right? Yeah.
Okay, Chandra, if your audio is back, I think we can take your question. So I think Patrick has given a comment on saying that some of the servers which don't explicitly need it, they've pulled out the internet access. So how are you managing your security updates, Patrick? So you manually do it?
Windows and antivirus are through SCCM. We're manually downloading to admin workstations and pushing them out by hand right now on the Exchange side.
Okay. Okay, Chandra, you can ask your question now.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm not sure what happened. I think my system froze. So I'll repeat that question again. I have a question with regards to mail flow security when in hybrid scenario. So we have a hybrid setup. So we didn't move any mailboxes yet, but we have Exchange 2013 and 2019 on-premise mixed mode with hybrid wizard already ran. But we are not there yet where we are migrating mailboxes yet. But in one of our sessions yesterday with regards to mail flow security, it was raised that you would still be able to connect to, if you know your tenant address, you would still be able to connect from outside to your tenant and send emails, even though your MX records are pointing to your on-prem devices. So this for me is a big security loophole, right? Like uh, when you run the hybrid wizard, by default, shouldn't it be blocking anything on port 25 when somebody's connecting, unless your MX record is pointing to your exchange online? So why is this not blocked at the a connector level on the exchange online?
Yeah, I can just add something there. I think so. Just to check, are you referring to the fact that we need to specifically, set the flags relating to restricting, incoming mail from certain IPs, or requiring a certain certificate to be provided by the SMTP server sending the mail, which is not done by default by HCW? And is that your primary concern? Because there is a way wherein you can restrict all incoming mails to Exchange Online by setting this flag, which will basically mean only on-prem Exchange servers can send those mails to your Exchange Online tenant.
Yes.
Would that help you?
Yes, yes. So I know there is a workaround, right? We were able to figure it out after yesterday's session, that you create a new connector and set based on your certificate domain name, right? That you only accept emails coming from on-prem and not from any others. But shouldn't this be by default? Shouldn't this be blocking? Because if we have ran this hybrid wizard a couple of months before, so we have this huge security loophole that anybody who knows your tenant address can directly send email to Exchange Online. This should be as part of hybrid wizard config itself. They should be by default be blocking, unless we as admins allow whether we can receive emails on the online side. This is something I wanted to raise.
Yeah, I think this makes sense, and maybe this is something we will try and discuss further and consider as we make improvements into HCW. It's a valid point.
Yeah, thank you. Otherwise, it will be bypassing all our security controls, right? Like it just, anybody can send as long as they know our mailbox addresses.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chandra, for your feedback.
So we're almost at the end, towards the end of the session. So I have one request to make. We have a list of features that we are looking at investing, because we heard some feedback from some of you, and it's posted. We have that list in this particular survey. I want you to please answer the survey and upvote or downvote the features that we have planned, and also provide your feedback, so that collectively we are able to take a good decision on what features we should include for the vNext and in the upcoming CUs as well. So please do look at the link that I have pasted, and go ahead and answer the questions on what investments we should make for in the Exchange server. We also have a list of currently features that we are looking at as well there. And after this session, we have the Ask the Expert session again. So if you still have additional questions, feel free to join that session as well. And I think David has also posted a link to a survey for this particular session here. So fill in the survey for you with your feedback on this particular session as well.
Yeah, so any last minute point, or should we Should we conclude the meeting?
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining this session. And we really hope to hear from you your feedback on the survey. And also, we're going to take into consideration all the feedback you've shared during the session on the chat window, etc. And we're going to make some improvements in Exchange Server based on your feedback. Thanks once again.